Hey everybody, this is Georgiana. Welcome back. This is Expressions Craft Studio, and I had downloaded some files from a couple of different places, Creative Fabrica, the Hungry JPEG, maybe even Design Bundles. And I got to thinking that maybe some of you have been tempted to do that and weren't sure how to, once you got them downloaded to your system, weren't sure how to actually install them. So when I download things, they go right into my download folder, and this is on a PC. Um, so it may be differently if you're using an Apple product. But anyway, it goes right into my download folder, and then you can see all these zipped files. Now you can't really use them in that fashion because everything's compressed. So what I do is I kind of just unzip all at once, or as many as I can. I have limited space on my C drive, so I sometimes run out of space, so I can't unzip them all at once, but there's not that many here, so I might be able to do it today. But basically I just highlight the first one by clicking on it, and then you can see up here, hopefully that's showing up on my screen. Let me minimize this just a little bit to make sure that it's showing up for you. Okay. So with the file highlighted, you can see that this extract button is highlighted up here on the menu bar. So I click that, and then I hit extract all, and this is going to go into my downloads folder too, so I'm just going to hit enter. And it's telling me there's not enough space. You need an additional. Oh wow, that lace file is really big, see? So let's go, we'll just skip that one and we'll go to the next one. So the lavender clip art free, it says, so extract all and hit enter. And there it's extracting 85 items, it says. So then I just arrow down. I try to do this as quickly as possible. Extract all, enter key, it's done, or almost done. Arrow down, extract all, basically just click because I'm hovering over that extract all button anyway, and I just keep working my way down the line. Sometimes I get too quick and I have to hit that extract all button more than once. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I mean, you can do them one at a time if you want. I just usually am doing multiples, and so I'm trying to do it in the most efficient manner for myself. But if you have another way that you prefer to do this, then by all means. So this was actually that was the one we had to skip, the lace clip art, but we went to the lavender clip art below it, and it shows this lace file up here, but I'll bet you there's nothing in it. Yeah, see, it's empty. So I'm just going to go back, hit my back arrow, and I'm going to delete that, and we'll try that again when we get all these done. So the lavender clip art was actually the first one we did. So this is the unzipped folder that it's put everything into. So I just double click on the folder to open it. I always skip the MACOSX. To be honest, I'm not really sure what that is. I don't know if that is for Macs or if it's just something else, but it's always the same files that are in the other folders underneath it. And then because there are both EPS, JPEGs, well, it's not both, it's several. There's a lot of file formats in here I don't use, so I sort it by type because that is the easiest way for me to get rid of all of the ones I will not use. And I just highlight them all and then hit delete. And I have started, because there are PNGs, I do look at them first and just make sure they're the same. So the PNG has a line around it, whereas, and you can see that over here in this window, which might be, I'm not sure what that means, but the PNG or the JPEG does not. Sorry. So I'm going to keep both of them in this instance, but normally I would get rid of the JPEG just because I don't need it. I also keep the SV. Oh, you know what? That might be for use with the SVG file now that I think about it. But anyway, I'm trying to highlight all of them. I usually start at the top, hold the shift key down, and then arrow down to select them all. And at this point, I've gotten in the habit of renaming stuff because I've got so many files that I've downloaded that a lot of times these would come in, the artist will save them as uh, O1 PNG, O2 PNG. Well, you've got enough artists doing that, and suddenly you're having to rename everything, or you've got copies of copies of copies. So I'm actually, because of the way this numbering thing works that I'm going to show you, I will break these out and do just the PNGs or just the JPEGs first. And I'm going to then hit the right button and hit rename, which is toward the bottom there. And I'm actually going to type in lavender, just like it starts out as, but then I'm going to add the number behind it. And you can see that number of the file right here. And that is 333-49159. And that's just to help me if I have to go back and look for it again, because, or if I think I've bought it and I'm not sure. It's just another way to help me go back through my files and figure out where it came from, or what the original file was called. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my shift and control arrow and move back over, because I want to copy this, because I'm also going to rename the PNG files and the SVG files. So I'm going to hit enter now. I think I copied that. We'll see. And you can see it renamed them all and gave them their file number, and then it calls them 1, 2, 3, 4, which is what they were already called. And now I'm going to do the same for the PNGs. Oops, sometimes my machine doesn't want to catch them all, it skips some. All right, so then we're going to go rename, and I'm going to do a control V. Nope, that was a previous file, so I forgot to copy. So it's lavender, and then the number was 333-49159. Now this time I am going to copy it, so shift control arrow back, and I'm going to do control C to copy that. And you can also use your buttons and your menus, but that's just easier for me. So then I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see it took and renamed these basically the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4 through 10, just like it did up here. But the reason it allowed that is because these are JPEGs and this is PNGs, so they're completely separate file types. If I had done them all at the same time, instead of this being number 1 PNG, it'd be number 11 PNG. And I want them to actually kind of correspond to the matching file, whether it's an SVG or a PNG, if that makes any sense. So now I'm going to do the same thing down here with the SVGs, and right click and rename. Well, I don't want to do it on that one though. I want to start with the first one because that's where I started on the others. So rename and control V to paste my name in there, and poof, they're all renamed. So now I'm going to highlight all of them. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to change the view to large icons just so I can kind of see what's in there. And mostly it's just different kinds of elements. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move these all over to my floral elements folder, which is on my D drive. It's got a little bit more room than my C drive. And it is going to be in my artwork and my images. Now this is just where I keep mine. You keep yours wherever you like. Just make sure that you can find them again later. So I'm going to go into my floral folder, and I'm just going to, actually I clicked on something that I shouldn't have clicked on, and it removed me from my downloads folder into my lavender clip art. So I'm backing all that up again and clicking all that again, selecting it basically. And I'm going to go back over, and I'm just going to move this into my floral elements. And by elements, I just mean these are just parts of an image that I will use to make a larger, fuller image. So now that they're all copied over, I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete this folder because I no longer need it. I've copied all the images I want. And I'm going to save the zipped folder, and I'm going to move it into a folder that I called done. So I'm moving it from my C drive to my D drive, which is what I'm doing with all of these, and then I will delete it from my C drive. So now we're doing lily clip art. And I'm going to go through this a couple times because each one's a little different, and this will just kind of show you how I contend with them when they come up. And again, see, this is the naming convention I was talking about. They've named their first image 1, the second image 2. It's a little lazy in my opinion. It makes it harder for people who use a lot of digital artwork because you do have to go in and rename things. But because there are all these different file types in here, I am going to sort it by type, start at the top, and get rid of anything I don't need. And I do not use, the software I use does not recognize DXF format or EPS format. So I'm going to delete those after I've highlighted them. And that leaves me with the JPEGs, the PNGs, and the SVGs. So basically we're just going to repeat the same thing that we did before. Highlight them all, right click, rename, and I'm going to call this Lily. And then I'm going to add the number for the file, which again is right here. Now you can type out Lily clip art PNG free if you want to. I don't need all that. I just need it to be different enough that sorry, I don't know what happened there. I think I have to start over. I just need it to be different enough that nothing else is going to slow down my process of trying to save it to my different folders. And that will happen if it's a duplicate file name and type. So I don't bother to put in clip art or PNG or free. PNG's in the file name, free, you know, who cares? Clip art, again, it's all clip art to me, so I just put the essential information, like in this case, the name, Lily, and then the file number, which is 332-08621. And then I hit enter. But again, I forgot to copy that, so I'm going to have to type it all out again. Or I can go into this, click it, and then click it one more time, and just select this information right here. Whoops. And do Control C to copy it. And then I can just escape out of there. So then I'll go down here to the PNG section where this 10 files are located. And I'll just repeat that process where I select all the files or highlight them, rename them, Control V to paste that, and hit enter. And it changes the name on all of them. So we'll do the same thing now for the SVGs. Right click, rename, Control V, enter. And now these are all ready to be moved to my D drive into the various folders. So let's see what these actually look like. I'm going to do large icons because those white flowers are a little hard to see. So we've got some beautiful lilies here. Would have been nice if I'd already had those for my Easter cards, but that's okay. So we're going to move these over again to our floral folders. And this is what I would consider a border or a frame, as is this, which is the PNG version, and this. So I'm going to, with those highlighted, I'm going to drag them over to my borders folder. And then I'm going to hit delete because I don't want to put those anywhere else. So then I'm going to grab my, what I consider to be a wreath, and this wreath, and I'm going to move them over to my wreaths folder, subfolder under floral. And I'll hit delete because there's nowhere else I want to put those. I didn't do that though for the SVGs, did I? Shoulda. Alright, so the rest of these are what I would consider elements. Now I do have one for bouquets, but I don't consider this image here really a bouquet. It's only got a couple flowers in it. That's, again, going to be your personal preference. So let's just move these over to elements, because, again, they are just parts of what will be a finished piece of artwork when I'm done. And then I'm going to delete them because there's nowhere else I want to put them. Now, I don't remember which ones were which here, so I'm just going to move them all over to the floral for now, and I'll go back and sort that out later. So I'm going to delete the Lily clip art PNG, and then I'm going to move the Lily zipped file over into my done folder, which is somewhere. There it is. And then I'll delete the zip folder on my C drive. So this one is all precious. See how they're all named 1, 2, 3. Well, that doesn't really work very well when you get a bunch of different 1, 2s, and 3s. So we're going to rename her. And this is Little Girl with Flowers, and that's what I'll call her. I will eliminate the free part of the name, and I will add the file number 594-62450. And then I will Shift, Control, and arrow back to the beginning, and Control C to copy that, and then I will hit Enter. Actually, I didn't need to do that because these are the only ones out there, but that's okay. It's good practice. So I think that was a different done folder, but that's okay too. So these I'm going to move all into the juvenile folder. Since they're a set, they'll all go in there together. Now, no place else really for me to move the little girl. She's not really a fairy per se, so I don't need to put her in fantasy. So I'm just going to highlight her and delete her. And then I will move these flowers back over to the floral elements folder so that they're in 2 places just to make them easier for me to find. Because I won't use these elements just with these elements. I'll use them with elements from other sets. Now, you don't have to save it in 2 places. If you don't have a lot of artwork or digital graphics, you might not need to do that. For me, those are the places. If I want to look for flowers, I won't go to juvenile to look for flowers, but I'll go to floral. But if I want to get something that matches her image, because a lot of times there are matching elements, I'll want them all together in the same folder. So that's why I copy it in 2 places. But again, personal preference. You do you. So we're going to move her over. Get that folder out here. Okay, done. Those. And then I'll delete it. All right, got a little sidetrack there. Didn't delete. There we go. So now we have Little Spring Fairy watercolor clip art. Oh, again, we'll enlarge that. Isn't she cute? And again, we're named 1, 2, 3, which is not good. So I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to put Little Spring Fairy. Now, I do a lot of watercolor. I like the look of it, so I just abbreviate that to WC. Again, you name it what works for you. This is what's going to work best for me. And that has come through years of downloading images, buying images, and now wishing I had done this all along, just because they're kind of a mess the way I've got my files sorted. But I'm trying to be consistent now with all my future downloads to make sure that I can find the elements that go with them more easily. So I'm going to add the file name, which is up here, 554-92221. Whoops, just 1. And I'm going to hit enter. So this one I am going to move into fantasy, all the pieces. I will also move it over to juvenile. And then I'm going to get rid of the fairy. I'm going to move the butterflies. I have them under animals. I realize butterflies aren't technically animals, but that's just what works for me. And then I'm going to move them over to my, well, I'll just put them in the winged things folder for now, which is where I put my birds, my butterflies, things like that. There is a flower on there, so I'm going to save it. And I think there's a butterfly in there, so I'm going to move that too. And I'm going to highlight them both, and I am going to go down to the floral. And actually, this is what I consider a wreath. It could also be a border. I'm going to put it in wreath. Yeah, what the hell, I'll put it in both. And then the butterflies and that flower I'm going to put into the elements folder. I'm going to highlight them both and delete. I didn't need to do that because I'm going to have to come out here and delete this folder like that. And then we will move the zipped file over to my done folder. And I'm going to delete that zipped on my C drive. And basically you just keep going through this process until you get them all done. Now if you come to a font, it's going to be a little different. I don't think I have any fonts downloaded here. It doesn't look like it. So we'll do one more and then we'll wrap this up. Let's pick one that's a little different. Let's do the watercolor hummingbird. Oh, but I don't want to do it in the zipped folder. I want to come up here. Look how pretty those are. I love those. So these, I have a couple of options with these. There is no file name or number associated with it. It's just watercolor hummingbird. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I normally abbreviate watercolor, but I don't have to. So I'm just going to leave that the way it is. And I'm going to move these over to a couple of different places. I am going to move them over to my winged things because they are hummingbirds. And that's under my animals folder. I'm then going to move them to backgrounds into floral because that's what they look like to me. That would be a really nice card front. So I'll move that over to floral. And I think that's probably, well, actually it's not because there is a cards option. I do have a cards folder under floral, so I'm going to select that one too. And then I'm going to use my back arrow here, go back all the way out, and I'm going to delete that folder. And then I'm going to come down and move the watercolor hummingbirds over to my done folder. Now some of these are steps, like I said, you're not necessarily going to need to do. It depends on your setup, how many drives you have, and how much space you have. I have almost no space left on my C drive, so I move everything over to my D drive, but you could also use an external drive. Just, you kind of have to evaluate your situation and decide what's going to work best for you, but this is what works for me. I like to save a copy of my zip folder just in case something actually gets deleted because they're not always free. Sometimes I buy them. In fact, a lot of times I buy them, and I don't want to delete a file I've purchased. If I delete it, then I'm going to forget about it, even though most of the sites you could go back and download it again since you've already paid for it. But if I don't know that I owned it to begin with, I'm not going to go looking for it. And because I do so many, it just makes sense for me to go ahead and save it. So that's how I do it. Hopefully this helps somebody. Sorry it's a little long-winded. Most of my videos are. Anybody will tell you. But, again, I hope it helps. If you have some questions, please give me a shout. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. Unfortunately, I am not familiar with Macintosh or Apple products, so I cannot help you with those. But if it's on a PC, I'm happy to answer questions for you. So if you haven't already done so and you love to create, there's lots of artwork out there. A lot of it's free. And even with the stuff that must be purchased, there's always sales going on from these major digital distributors. So I try to post those on my Facebook group when there's a sale or a particular freebie. So you can check that out if you want at Expressions Craft Studio on Facebook, or just get out there and explore, whatever. But anyway, thanks, and I'll wrap this up, and happy crafting.